I came down the cellar stairs before you'd so much as struck a match. You'll have noticed I didn't knock. 11 weeks I've stood up in your parlour taking the field for the floor of the world, the bedrock, the thing there's nothing under. And last week, on your way out the door, you rapped one knuckle on that floor and it rang hollow. A room beneath it. A ghost you swore was holding the boards up. And a particle that walks clean through a place with no field in it and comes out the far side nudged all the same. So here I am, down where you keep the thing you've been hiding. Show me the ghost.
Not yet, and not because I'm teasing you. A ghost you're handed on the doorstep is only ever a story, the kind you forget by morning. But a ghost you meet after I've walked you round the room it lives in, that one moves in with you. So we take the slow stairs down. For 11 weeks I let you believe the field was the bottom of everything. The lines, the shove, the wave, the whole cast of it. It isn't. There's a quieter thing beneath the field we've been leaning our whole weight on the entire time, and I let you think it wasn't even in the house.
You half confessed as much last week, so don't act coy now. The voltage, the landscape of hills a charge rolls down. You called it a kind of bookkeeping we kept scribbling in the margins to make the sums come out, and then you let me file it away as scaffolding and think no more of it. So is that all your ghost is? The voltage, come back downstairs with a bedsheet thrown over its head to give me a fright?
Say what scaffolding means to you first, plainly, because the whole night turns on whether the word fits. What is scaffolding to your mind?
Scaffolding's the poles and planks you throw up to build the real thing, and then strike down and cart away and never think of again. A convenience, not a part of the finished house. Nobody lives on the scaffolding. And that is exactly, precisely, how I've carried the voltage all these weeks. A handy ladder for tallying the field, useful as anything, but not a thing that's actually out there in the world doing work.
Then hold that word close, because I'm going to make you take it back before the night is out. And here's the first thing that ought to unsettle you. There are two of these quiet under-things down here, not one. The voltage is only the friendly half. There's a second, and it's a stranger creature altogether. The one that'll set your skin crawling. You'll shake hands with the first like an old school friend and back away from the second. And then I'll show you why, for the better part of 100 years, every sober physicist alive looked at the pair of them and said the same flat thing. A convenient fiction, nothing more.
That's the word my own mouth was reaching for. Fiction. So you've dragged me down into a cellar to spend the night on a thing you're about to swear up and down to me isn't even real?
On a thing everyone was dead certain wasn't real. Right up until one small, patient experiment turned it over on its back. Start where the ground's firm under you. Cast your mind all the way back to the landscape nights, the hills, the rolling marble, the great boulder loaded at the lip of the cliff. You built an entire country out of nothing but charge, and you walked across it on your own 2 feet. What did we call the height of that country?
The voltage. That was the conjuring trick of those nights. You took the field, all those bristling little arrows, one at every point in space, the full spiny sea urchin of it, and traded the quiver away for one quiet number. A height. How loaded a spot was, measured out per scrap of charge I chose to carry there. And the marble I rolled down it could be any charge I liked. A fat one or a scrawny one. It made no odds to the ground, because the height was quoted per scrap of charge. I've not lost a stone of it since. Hand me the hills and I'll roll a marble down them in the dark.
And a marble set down anywhere on that hillside. What is it that actually makes the thing roll? Not the height it happens to be standing at. Say it back to me the way you said it then, on the night the penny dropped.
The tilt, the steepness right there under its little feet. A marble parked out on a mile-high plateau sits there perfectly serene. not stirring a hair, so long as the ground beneath it lies flat. However staggering the drop is off somewhere at the far edge. So it's never the height that shoves it. It's how fast the height is changing, right at the exact spot the marble sits.
The push is the slope of the landscape, never the altitude. Now hand me the join those nights closed on, the marriage of the two maps. The height was the voltage, and the slope of that height
Was the field. That was the whole wedding of those weeks, and it took me half the night to believe it. The voltage is the hill. The field is nothing but how sharply that hill tips, right where you're standing on it. A flat stretch of voltage, and there's no field at all. A sheer cliff in the voltage, and there's a savage, roaring field. The arrows were never a second map fighting the first for room in my skull. They were the steepness of the first map, read straight off it, everywhere at once.
Now hear what that quietly confesses, because we brushed right past it that night, and tonight it's the doorway. If the field is only the slope of the voltage, then which of the two is the starting thing, and which is the thing you work out from it?
Let me not blurt. If you hand me the voltage landscape, every hill and hollow of it, I can read off every field arrow there is from the steepness, no trouble. But I can't run it the easy way backward, can I? One lone field arrow at one spot doesn't tell me how high the ground is there. It only tells me the tilt. So the height's got more packed inside it than the slope does. It carries more.
One arrow off its flank will never rebuild the hill. The height was always holding more than the slope let on. Put it to yourself honestly then. Which of the pair has the better claim to be the real object in the world? The arrows or the hill they came sliding off?
The hill does. If the field's just the slope of the voltage, then the voltage is the thing, and the field is the sum you do to it. And that's a genuine turn because I've had it the exact other way round for 11 straight weeks. The field cast as the swaggering hero of every night, the voltage some meek bookkeeper we tolerated for the arithmetic. You've walked in and stood me on my head. And the galling part is, I can feel it's right, because you always drew the field by sketching the hills first and reading the tilt off them, never once the other way about, never building the hills up out of a heap of loose arrows. The hills came first at your drawing board every single time, and I sat there 11 weeks and never once thought to ask why the arrows always turned up second.
Gently though, because there's an honest objection sitting right there in plain sight, and if you won't pick it up and swing it at me, I'll have to swing it at myself. The voltage had no true zero. No sea level was ever handed down to us on a stone tablet. Go on, finish the thought you started 3 weeks ago.
Right, and this is the crack in it. You could slide the whole landscape bodily up or bodily down, every last number lifting together at once, and not one single thing you could ever go out and measure would so much as twitch. The zero was mine to plant wherever it fell handiest, because only the differences in height were ever real, only the drop from here to there.
And now say aloud why that very freedom is a black mark against calling the voltage real. Don't let me say it for you.
Because a genuinely real thing doesn't let you get away with that. It doesn't sit there and let me shove every one of its values up by 100 and then just shrug. Same world, nothing changed, no one the wiser. The field never let me pull a stunt like that. Every arrow of it was pinned down hard. But this I can slide around like furniture. A quantity you can slide with no consequence anywhere smells a great deal more like a spreadsheet than like a thing. A real thing has a fact of the matter about it. This much right here, no argument to be had. This one just shrugs. Whatever number you fancy, so long as the differences hold their shape.
You've walked yourself straight onto the saw point, and I promise you we'll pitch a tent on it before the night's through. For now, only hold it. That freedom to slide is exactly what makes the voltage look like a clerk's private ledger and not a thing out in the weather. And I'll warn you, it's about to get a good deal worse, because the second under thing has more of that freedom than the voltage, not less.
Marvellous. More freedom to be shoved around and mean nothing by it. That's a splendid recommendation for something you want me to believe in. All right, out with it then. Introduce me to the second ghost, the one you say sets my skin crawling.
Magnetism has a potential of its own too.
It has a hill, then, a landscape of its own that a compass needle rolls down, the way a charge rolls down the voltage.
No. And that little word, no, is where the entire trouble with it starts. The voltage is a height. One bare, headless number at each point in space. No direction to it whatsoever. Nothing to the thing but how much. You could fold it up small and carry it in your waistcoat pocket. This second one will not go in any pocket you own, because at every single point in space, it isn't a number at all. It's a little arrow, a heading. The wretched thing points, and points its own way at every spot. A whole field of headings before we've said a word about what it's for.
But hang on. A heading stuck at every point, that's just the field all over again, surely. Arrows everywhere you look. You've turned round and handed me back the exact same bristling quiver you spent a night talking me out of carrying. I gave it all up on your say-so and slept the sounder for the lighter load. And here you are, 3 weeks on, pressing it back into my arms with a perfectly straight face and telling me this one's different. It had better be different.
A quiver, yes, but not the field's quiver. A quieter one, lying underneath it, from which the magnetic field gets read off in just the way the electric field got read off the hill. It's the under thing, not the thing.
Give me something my hands can hold, though. Read off it how? The voltage I could picture as honest hills, with a marble on them. What in the world am I meant to picture this heading at every point as? The hill I could see with my eyes shut, the ground, the tilt, the marble minding its own business on the slope of it. I keep reaching for the same handle here and closing my fingers on nothing. A field of little arrows is not a country a man can walk across.
Picture a wind, if you must picture anything at all. A wind blowing through the whole of space, its own direction at every spot, brisk over here, slack and idle over there. It is not the magnetic field. The magnetic field is what you get out of the way this wind swirls.
Walk me right into that slow, the way it swirls. Because a wind I can very nearly get my hands round. Say the cellar's full to the rafters with this wind of yours, each corner blowing its own way. What on earth do you mean? The field is the swirl of it.
Drop a tiny paddle wheel down into the wind, a little cross of vanes on a pin, free to spin whichever way it likes. Set it down anywhere you please and watch closely what the thing does.
All right, it's down. What am I watching the little wheel for?
In most places, the wind just carries it along bodily and never turns it. The vanes hold their heading, the wheel doesn't spin on its pin at all. But somewhere the wind may lean harder on one vane than on the vane clean across from it. And right there, the little wheel begins to turn. And wherever that little wheel spins on its pin, precisely there, and pointing straight along the pin, there is a magnetic field. The field is the local twist in the wind. Only the spots where the wind winds tight enough to catch a vane and turn it, and nowhere else.
The magnetic field, flatly, isn't the wind then. It's the curl in the wind. The particular places where the wind is winding round on itself, hard enough to spin a paddle wheel, you drop right down at that one spot. The going round and round, caught and measured by a little turning cross. So there could be a wind blowing hard down the length of the cellar, brisk as you like, and if it's blowing dead straight, all in a line, no vane ever turns, and there's no field to it at all. The field lives only where the wind bends back on itself. It's the bending you're measuring, never the blowing.
and now I owe you a plain honesty. You're due it, and I'd rather hand it over than have you catch me holding it back. This is harder to picture than the hill was, genuinely harder, and I won't stand here and pretend otherwise to keep the night tidy.
I had noticed, believe me, the voltage I could actually see, real hills, a real marble rolls down, but this wind, whose one and only job in the world is apparently to be curled up just so.
Nobody has a mechanical picture of it. Nobody. It blows nothing along. You'll never feel it on your face on a cold morning. It is an arrow parked at every point whose entire purpose is to carry the right amount of swirl, so that the swirl of it comes out being exactly the magnetic field you already know and can already count.
Then it truly is bookkeeping, isn't it? You've gone and built a wind whose sole reason to draw breath is to be curled up correctly. That's not a thing standing out in the world. That's a ledger with a little fan doodled in the corner. Why would anyone dream up such a contraption when the magnetic field was already sitting right there, honest as daylight, curling round its wire, a thing I could walk a loop around and count?
Because a man felt it was there before anyone alive could write it down. Faraday, who never once had the mathematics for any of it, kept stubbornly insisting the space wrapped round a wire was not empty, even when nothing at all was moving in it.
The plain, empty air around a wire. Faraday reckoned it was somehow up to something.
He said it sat in a strained, readied condition, a kind of quiet tension wound into the space itself, coiled and waiting. He called it an electrotonic state, and to his dying day, he couldn't say what the thing was. He only trusted, bone deep, his own conviction that the space around that wire was very far from idle.
And of course, nobody could pin a number onto a stubborn man's hunch.
In the end, Maxwell could. He took Faraday's conviction and gave it a shape. The wind, the very thing whose swirl is the magnetic field. Faraday felt the ghost standing in the room, plain as a draft under the door. Maxwell was the one who finally wrote its name down on paper.
This directional wind, the vector potential, I'll call it, just to keep it well clear of the voltage in my head, is really Faraday's old hunch dragged up into arithmetic. Fine, I'll grant it a name. But I want to be straight with you now. I'm stood here holding two of these under things, and I trust the first one about halfway, and the second one not 1 inch.
Then, before I take a single step further, demand of me what they were ever kept around for. If the fields did every scrap of the pushing, all these weeks, why keep a height and a wind that push nothing at all?
A real answer then, not a pretty one. Why keep a pair of ghosts on the payroll when neither of them so much as lifts a charge?
2 reasons. And I want you to hold the second one loosely, in an open hand, because that's the one the trap is baited on. The first is plain, they are far kinder to reckon with. 1 quiet height in place of a whole bristling field. 1 wind in place of a second bristling field. The sums simply come out gentler.
Convenience then. I'll grant you that one without so much as a scuffle. A shorter sum is a shorter sum. And the second reason, the one I'm to hold in an open hand, because so far you've handed me convenience, and I've taken convenience off you gladly. A shorter sum is a mercy, and I'll not sniff at it, but convenience never once made a thing real. A shortcut on the page isn't a fact about the world.
The seduction. Every deep law we ever wrote across these 11 weeks comes out shorter and cleaner and somehow more inevitable in the potentials than it ever does in the fields. As though the potentials were the tongue nature actually thinks in, and the fields were only ever our rough, stumbling translation of it.
Oh, now come on. That's a physicist swooning over the neatness of his own handwriting. Nothing grander. It's shorter when I write it in these letters. Therefore, these letters are the more real. You have personally warned me off that exact bit of reasoning a good dozen times, standing in that parlour.
I have, and you are dead right to pick it up and hurl it back in my face. On its own 2 feet, it proves precisely nothing. Tidy is not the same animal as true, never has been. Half the fictions ever dreamt up were tidy. That's rather how they lure you in.
So don't stand there handing me tidy and calling it a reason. Hand me a reason.
I'll do the braver thing first, the honest one. I'm going to build you, brick by brick, the strongest possible case that the potentials are pure fiction. The very case that held the whole field for a century. I'm going to stand here in my own cellar and try, in good faith, to talk you out of them.
Now that I would sell a boot to watch, you mounting the case against your own ghosts. Go on then, do your worst. Convince me the thing under the floor is a bedsheet on a broom handle.
We start with the voltage and the freedom you already sniffed out on your own. Slide the whole landscape bodily up by any lump sum you fancy, every number lifting together. What in the world moves?
Nothing. Nothing you could ever measure. Same field, same forces, same everything, right down to the last scrap. The height's gone loose by a constant, and the world simply cannot tell. That's the sea level business again. The zero floats free, and I can nail it down wherever suits me.
Now the wind carries the same disease, only far gone, far wilder. There's a particular way to reach in and change the wind. You add a certain swirl-free gust to it, a gust that blows its own way at every point in space, and it shifts the arrows everywhere at once.
And I'll wager I can guess the sting waiting in the tail. It adds no twist.
No new swirl born at any point in all of space. Not a whisper of it, anywhere. And if there's no new swirl born,
then there's no new magnetic field. Because the field was only ever the swirl in the first place. You've gone and changed the wind at every single point in the whole of space, the entire map torn up and redrawn. And because you were careful, canny, to add in only a gust that spins no paddle wheel anywhere, the field it throws off comes out dead identical to what it was. Not a soul with an instrument could ever catch you having touched it.
and you can run both dodges at the one time, slide the voltage, reshuffle the wind in a matched and knowing pair, and every electric field, every magnetic field, every last force on every last charge comes out precisely as it was before you started. There's a broad freedom to shuffle the potentials around down in the cellar, while the world up in the parlour sits stone still, noticing not one whisper of it.
So it's a slush fund. That's what you've just built me, plank by plank. Nature keeping a great slush fund tucked under the counter, and you're free to shovel money all over it, enormous sums, in and out of every point in space. And the books up top always net back to exactly nothing. Not a single penny of it ever surfaces in anything you can measure. Well, that rather settles it, doesn't it?
Put words to it. What does it settle? Plainly, out loud, so we both know the ground we're standing on when I go to break it.
It settles the sober case. A quantity you can change by any amount you please, whenever you please, with no consequence anywhere in creation. That is not a thing. It's an accountant's slack, padding shoved in to make the arithmetic sit comfortably. The fields are what's real. These two ghosts are the wadding we slide about behind them. I rest my case, which is, I notice, really your case, argued rather better than I could have managed alone. You make a fearsome prosecutor when you turn on your own ghosts. And if I didn't know for a stone-cold fact that you keep a twist folded in your pocket for the end of every single night, I'd have signed the verdict, thanked the court, and gone home to bed.
It is a devastating case. I hold it right alongside you, this very minute, for the sake of what has to come next. So hold it firmly, grip it hard, because a thing held firm breaks along a cleaner line than a thing held loose. And I am about to break this one, straight across. But to break it, I have to reach right out of this course, out of everything classical we have built together across 11 weeks, and borrow one single idea from the other world. The quantum one. Only the one, and I'll hand it back the moment we're done with it.
Then name it. Say it right out, so I can keep my eye on your hands the entire time. What's the one quantum idea you're about to walk in through the door?
Not walk in by stealth, carry in broad daylight. That's the whole reason I'm saying it aloud to you first. The borrowed idea is this. An electron is not only a little pellet, it travels as a wave.
A wave. From the two slit nights over in the other course, the beam that split.
And a wave carries a phase, a little clock hand turning steadily round as it goes, so that when two separate paths of the same wave come back and meet, whether their two clock hands arrive standing in step or standing opposed, is the thing that decides whether they pile up bright or cancel each other down to dark.
The little clocks. Yes, I have watched an electron do exactly this. You split it, send the halves off two different ways, then bring them back together, and wherever the two clocks land in step, you get a bright band, and wherever they land dead opposed, you get a dark one. So the screen comes out wearing stripes.
Every one of those stripes is the two paths arriving in step, then slipping out, then back in.
But that's the electron's own private affair, surely. Its clock, its stripes, its business. What under the sun has any of that got to do with your wind down here?
Everything in the world. Now I build the machine, piece by piece. Take a coil, the wire wound into a long, tight tube, the very one from the magnetism nights. Run a current round it. Where does the magnetic field it makes go?
Straight down the core, herded inside the whole of it. You proved that one to me yourself, with the loop and the tally. The tighter you crank the turns, the harder the field packs itself down the middle of the tube, and outside the wall of it, the thing goes weak and slack and thin.
So push that honest fact right out to its limit. A coil wound so tight, so beautifully made, that outside its wall, the magnetic field isn't merely weak and slack.
It's nothing at all. Zero. Every last thread of the field sealed up inside the tube, and the wide region outside swept perfectly empty of it. Not a whisper of field out there.
Can you hold that picture steady? A place where the magnetic field is honestly, everywhere you care to check, flat zero, and yet with a hidden hoard of field locked away in the hollow down the very middle, in a hole the electron is never once going to set foot inside.
I can hold it. Inside the coil, a bottled-up field that nobody standing outside can lay a hand on. Outside the coil, no field whatsoever. A dead, still, field-free country stretching away in every direction. And the electron, I take it, is going to go for a walk out in that outside country.
Never once into the tube, only ever the outside. Now here's the machine, entire. You fire your electron at the coil, as a wave, and you split it in two. One half goes round the left of the tube, the other half goes round the right.
Both halves out in the field, free country the whole journey. Neither one dipping into the hole where the field's locked up.
On both roads, every step of the way, the magnetic field is zero. Then you gather the two halves back together on the far side, and you let them lay their stripes down. Now, before I breathe a word of the answer, tell me, where do the stripes fall?
Nowhere new. That's my answer. And I'll plant my flag on it the way you always make me. The stripes fall precisely where they'd have fallen with no coil sitting there at all.
Give me the reason under it. Don't just plant the flag, dig it in.
The reason is the whole of the course, every night of it. What is it that moves an electron? A field, a force. And there is no field anywhere either half of that wave ever went. You sealed all of it up inside the tube and swore to me on your life the outside is nothing. No field, so no force, so no push, so nothing anywhere to lay so much as a fingertip on either path. So both halves sail round untouched, and arrive with their little clocks reading exactly what they'd read with the coil switched, stone dead off. The pattern cannot have budged. There is nothing out there to budge it with. I'd write it on the wall in ink. No field on the left road, no field for a country mile in any direction, either half of the wave ever went. Whatever it is a field does to a charge, it plainly cannot do it from inside a bottle the charge never uncorks, so the stripes sit precisely where they sat before. That's no guess of mine, that's the course, handed straight back to you, word for word.
That is the only sane prediction a person could make. It is the one I would have staked my own life on, without a tremble. And it is wrong.
There's no field out there. Wrong how? You told me so yourself. You stood there and made me say it back to you twice over.
Turn the current on, bottle that field up in the hole, and the striped pattern slides bodily sideways. Every band of it shifts along, and the size of the shift is set by one thing, and one thing only. By how much field you sealed away inside the coil. The field times the patch of room it's bottled in. The hole the electron never so much as approached.
Wait, no, that can't. The field was zero the entire way, on both roads. You made me say it back to you twice, you just said so yourself. And you're standing there telling me it moved anyway, that something reached down into that swept empty country and turned the electron's clock, and there was no field anywhere out there to do the turning.
Nothing that we would ever call a force so much as brushed it. Let me nail this down hard, right into the beam, because it is the whole of the wonder, and it's the single easiest thing in the world to get wrong. The moment a person hears the pattern moved, they reach, every time, for a hidden shove, some stray whisker of field that must have crept out of the tube to do the pushing on the sly. And that reach is wrong. Dead wrong. There was no shove of any kind. So hold your hand still and let me say it slowly.
Then nail it, and nail it well, because from where I'm standing it sounds like you're quietly taking back all 11 weeks at once.
No classical push acted, anywhere, along either path. The magnetic field out there was truly, flatly zero. So there was, honestly, no force at any point on either half of the wave. Not a shove, not a nudge, and no, it did not leak out of the tube behind your back to do the deed on the sly. Not a thread of it. It stayed locked in the hole the whole time. There was simply nothing out in that country of the kind you have spent 11 weeks calling the thing that does the pushing. And the pattern shifted regardless. Every band of it, plain and measured.
Then I am flat out of actors. The field is the only thing you ever once let push a charge, and the field wasn't out there and it didn't sneak out, and yet the electron came home marked by a thing sealed up inside a tube. It walked a wide, respectful circle around. That's it. That's your ghost.
There it is. The ghost I promised you through the keyhole last week. It reached out and touched the passing thing, in a place where there was nothing whatsoever to touch it with. 11 weeks I drummed into you that to move a thing you must lay a field across it. And here is a thing moved, plainly moved, measured moved, with no field laid across its road anywhere at all. Sit still in that a moment before I tell you the how of it. The wonder first. The machinery can wait its turn.
That's it to the letter. Nudged where the field was zero. So now you're on the hook. You have to tell me what did it, because you've just kicked the last leg out from under everything I own. I'll not take one more word of the course on trust till you account for this. A stripe that slid, with no field anywhere to slide it. Either you've a culprit hidden somewhere down in this cellar, or the whole 11 weeks has a hole clean through the floor of it. And you're smiling, so I know which one you're about to claim.
Only now, with your certainty lying in pieces on the cellar floor, do I get to. Cast your mind back to the wind. The magnetic field outside the coil is zero, yes, but the field, was never the wind itself.
It was the swirl of the wind, the curl, the little paddle wheels spinning on its pin.
And a thing can have no swirl in it anywhere, and still be blowing.
Say a great deal more because you spent the first half of the night hammering into me that the wind's entire point was its swirl. And now you're telling me the swirl's packed up and gone home, and the wind is somehow still out there blowing.
Picture the water going down a drain. Round and round the plug hole it circles, a smooth, patient spiral. Now float one tiny paddle wheel out in that circling water, well clear of the hole, out in the calm of it. Does the little wheel spin on its own pin?
I'd have barked yes straight off, but you're plainly setting a trap, so let me actually crouch down over the sink and watch the wretched thing. The water's carrying the little wheel round the drain in one big slow circle. Fine, no arguing that. But out here the water's turning one way and it's sheer the other. And they cancel exactly, so the little wheel is carried round the drain bodily, holding its heading, never spinning on its pin. The entire ocean of the stuff is going around, and yet no paddle wheel anywhere out in it is spinning on its pin. The going around and the spinning on the pin have come right apart.
There is the wind outside the coil, drawn to the life. It circles the tube, round and round, a real heading at every point, genuinely, honestly blowing. And nowhere out there does it ever wind up tight enough to spin a paddle wheel.
Out in the open water, no local swirl anywhere. And no swirl means no magnetic field, which is the honest truth of it. The field out there is zero, just as you swore. So both things you told me are true at once, and I'd have sworn they couldn't be. The field is flat nothing out there, and the wind is unmistakably going around out there. It's only that I'd bolted the two together in my head. No field, so no wind, and they were never bolted at all.
And yet the wind is going around. The swirl, the spin, the twist, the field, every scrap of it jammed and crushed down the drain, down the hole, locked inside the coil.
The field lives entirely in the hole, and the going around, the circling, reaches out into all that empty country where there's no field at all. The swirl's bottled, the circling most certainly is not. And the electron doesn't read the swirl.
It reads the going around. One half of the wave rides round the left of the drain, the wind meeting it one way. The other half rides round the right, the wind meeting it the opposite way.
And that circling wind winds each little clock as it passes. One of them a touch forward, the other a touch back.
Forward on the left road, back on the right, so that when the two halves finally meet again on the far side, their clocks are no longer standing in the step they'd otherwise have kept. And the whole difference between them is set by how much wind is circling that tube, which is set by how much field you sealed in the hole. The pattern slides sideways by exactly that, and not a hair more.
So the field in the hole reaches the electron through the wind, never by pushing, never once by pushing. There's no force anywhere. The field's locked away. But by threading the outside country with a circling wind, the electron's little clock can feel. The thing I stood here and called a spreadsheet, the padding, the wadding, the slush fund, it walked right out into the empty region where the field itself could never go. And it turned the electron's clock over. The under thing did the very thing the field couldn't, strolled into the one room the field was locked out of, and left its quiet mark on a passing electron with nothing you could honestly call a touch. I stood here and called it padding. I called it a bedsheet on a broom handle, and it reached across an empty country and turned a clock.
Now, before you sail off the ground entirely, go and fetch back your own best objection. It has earned a proper answer, and the answer is the deepest thing in the whole night.
My own best objection was the slush fund itself. that you can reshuffle the wind any old way you please and change nothing at all by it.
So swing it at me now, hard. If the wind is truly loose like that, reshuffle it whichever way you fancy, then how in the world can it move a definite, measured, stubborn, undeniable set of stripes? A slush fund buys nothing real. So what did I miss?
Yes, that's the knife, isn't it? And it's turned round on me. If you can reshuffle the wind freely, then which wind was it that moved the electron? You could have reshuffled it into 100 different winds before breakfast, and the stripes only ever shift by the one definite amount every single time. So either your reshuffling isn't half so free as you swore blind it was, or… No, I can't see it. Tell me, where's the catch?
The catch is beautiful, and it closes the ring shut. Yes, I can reshuffle the wind at every point in space. But there is exactly one thing that all my reshuffling can never, ever touch. The total going around a full loop that encircles the whole.
Not the wind here or the wind there, which I can shove about like chairs in a room, but the total tally of the going around, taken pace by pace, right round the loop and home to where I set out. The one grand sum, not any single arrow in it.
Walk right around the coil, adding up the wind along your entire loop, pace by pace, back to where you began. That grand total is pinned down, fixed, immovable. Every swirl-free gust I add nets itself to nothing around a closed loop. Whatever it borrows on the near arc, it hands straight back on the far one. So a walker who circles the plug hole and comes home to their start finds it all cancelled away to nothing. But the true circling around the hole can never be cancelled like that, and the loop cannot tell whether the swirl inside is spread wide or bottled small, only what it comes to in total.
Which is just my slush fund closing its own books. Of course it is. You can shovel money all round the ledger, but come the full circuit, it always nets back to nothing.
The going around the loop is the one thing in all that wind that no reshuffling can shift by a hair, and it comes out equal to the field sealed inside. The field times the patch of room it's bottled in. How much field over how much room. That loop total is real and fixed and measurable, and it is the thing the electron reads off as it walks its circle.
So the slush fund is real after all, but only in the one sum I was never able to fiddle. Every arrow, at every point, I can slide around till it means nothing. But the total circling the hole is nailed hard to the field trapped inside it, and all my slippery fiddling always cancels itself dead round the loop. That's the part that was never bookkeeping at all.
Welded, the going around to what's shut in the hole, and the electron walks the loop and totals it up for you honestly, whether or not there was ever a field out there for your eye to catch.
So it was never a spreadsheet. Or it was, but the spreadsheet had one true number written in it that the fields were simply blind to. And nature had been keeping its accounts in that one number the whole time, under everything. Every night I quoted you a voltage and thought I was naming a convenience, a bit of tidy arithmetic. And all along there was that one true figure hidden in the ledger, the going around, welded fast to whatever's shut in the hole, that the fields were born unable to see. And nature had been reading it off, quietly, patiently, since long before there were any physicists about to stand in cellars arguing over it.
Say it now, as plainly as the thing can be said. You've earned the plain telling of it.
In the world I can push and prod and measure. The fields do all the pushing, and the potentials look for all the world like our own bookkeeping. But go down one floor, down into the quantum, the place you reach to borrow the little clock, and the whole thing turns right over. Down there the potential is the deeper actor of the two. It reaches into rooms where the field can't follow, and the field is only ever its shadow, its slope, its swirl. the one part of it that happens to show its face upstairs. The slope of the hill, the swirl of the wind. Those are the parts that climb up into the daylight, where an instrument can catch hold of them. But the hill itself, the wind itself, runs on down into the cellar, where no instrument I own can follow. And it does its work down there, in the dark, on anything that carries a clock to feel it.
And now be careful, the exact way I've taught you to be careful. Everything you just felt came riding in on the single thing I borrowed. So go and test it, honestly. Take that one thing away, the electron's clock, its phase, its wave, and does the ghost still stand?
Let me actually think it through and not just wish it one way or the other. Strip the clock right off. Treat the electron as a plain pellet again. No phase, no wave to it at all. Just a hard little bead flung round the coil. A plain pellet feels only forces, and there's no force anywhere out in that country. So a plain pellet sails straight through, untouched, and the pattern never so much as stirs. The ghost dies on the spot. It's the wave, the clock, the phase, the whole borrowed quantum heart of the thing that lets the going around leave any mark at all. Take the borrowed idea back out of my hands, and there's suddenly nothing left in the room to see.
And that is the honesty the night has to stand on. So I'm glad it was you who reached it and not me. This is the one place, in 11 weeks of a stubbornly, deliberately classical course, where I've had to put a hand right through into the other world to show you one true thing. Not smuggled in under a coat, held up plainly in the light, and handed straight back the moment its work was done.
The potentials matter most exactly where the quantum lives. Up here in the classical parlour, the wind stays a harmless spreadsheet. Slide it anywhere you like, no one's the wiser, and I'd have gone to my grave never catching it out. It took the smallest, tightest, most patient experiment there is to force the thing to lay its hand on the table.
A shift in some stripes. Measured by two physicists, decades on from the day the potentials were first written down. Long, long after everyone had settled comfortably into calling the whole business a fiction.
The tool sat there in the drawer a full lifetime, every soul certain it was a mere convenience for the sums.
Until someone, at last, thought to seal a field away where no force could ever reach, and then simply ask the passing electron whether it knew. And it knew.
There's something in that I find almost unbearable if I sit still with it. A field locked up tight in a box, and a particle that never once comes within a country mile of the box, and the particle walks away knowing, to the last drop, exactly how much you shut up inside it. Not by being pushed, by some deeper reaching that has no need of a push at all. I came down these stairs after a ghost story, and you've handed me a true one instead, which is far worse because now I can't set the thing down. A ghost story you can shelve when the candle gutters out. A true one follows you up the stairs and sits on the end of the bed all night. And this one has a real measurement standing behind it, so I can't even soothe myself that it was only the wind moaning in the chimney.
Then don't set it down, pick it right up, because there is one last turn left in it, and that turn is the reason this whole course has drawn breath. You're holding two underthings now. The voltage, a height, whose slope is the electric field, and the wind, a heading, whose swirl is the magnetic field.
Two potentials, two separate cellars, I'd have said. One dug under electricity, one dug under magnetism. That's how I'd been carrying the pair of them around all night, in two hands.
No, one cellar. The height and the wind are two faces of a single object down here. Not two potentials at all. One that shows you a height from one angle, and a circling wind from another.
What settles which of the two masks I happen to be looking at?
Nothing in this world but how you happen to be moving as you look. Which face shows up to you as a voltage, and which, as the wind, is set by your own motion through it. and nothing else.
No, you've done this to me once already, haven't you? Weeks back. You stood right there and told me a moving charge conjures up a magnetism that a still charge never, ever could.
And it goes further. It isn't only the two potentials that fold together into one like this. The two fields do it too.
The electric field and the magnetic field. The pair I've kept apart in two separate hands for 11 solid weeks.
One single thing as well, wearing two coats. And how much of it shows up looking electric and how much magnetic depends entirely on how you happen to be moving when you meet it.
The cast folding down at once then. The two potentials into one. The two fields into one. And the only thing sorting any of it into electric and magnetic is my own plane motion through it. That's no footnote. That's the thing all 11 weeks has been quietly walking me toward.
It's the finale, and it has earned a night all its own. So tonight, I'll only crack the door on it. Pull that one last disguise off, and you have laid your hand on the deepest idea in the entire course. And it carries a name you already half feel coming up the stairs toward you.
I can feel the sheer weight of it, even without the name. Everything I've learned across these weeks, and now these two ghosts beneath all of it, folding down into one. And you've been keeping this from me the whole time, haven't you? Every single night.
Every night of it. One more step down the stairs toward it, and you never once told. Next week we take the last step and pull off the last coat and find out at last what electromagnetism has been underneath all along. The secret this whole course has been keeping. But the last word tonight is yours, the way it's always yours, standing right there. You came down the cellar stairs after a ghost.
Not a ghost at all, as it turns out. It's the tenant. All these weeks I had it that the field owned the house top to bottom, and the potentials were some junk we'd shoved down the cellar and half forgotten, too handy to throw out, never quite real enough to respect. The scaffolding you told me to strike down and forget, and the scaffolding turns out to have been load-bearing the whole time, holding the entire house up from underneath when I stood about admiring the walls.
And it's the other way up entirely.
The other way up. The thing down in the cellar is the one that actually reaches, out into rooms with no field in them at all, to touch a passing electron and leave its quiet mark on it, and it never once needs to push to do the touching. The field was only ever the part of it that showed its face upstairs, in the light where I could see. I'll not say it's just the voltage, again the careless way I've said it 10,000 times about a dead phone. I'll hear the ghost breathing under the word now. See you next week for the last coat and the secret waiting under it.